Hi there, I'm Matt Keene. Welcome to Creating a Future We Want, the Ethics series. Well, I grew up um, watching TV in the 80s and seeing images of people who are hungry, starving, thirsty, experiencing drought, terrible poverty in, honestly, they rarely said what country in Africa that was. It was just called Africa. I've come to this point to think about that in terms of, if you'll forgive the sound of aircraft, view these as insanity that a species, Homo sapien, would build a world that does not provide what its own species requires to survive. That is, like water, clean air, food, not to mention things like freedom and equality, and we could go on for a long time listing what would be assumed to be basic human rights that have not been realized. So here we are, 1980s to 2020s, and now I think when I think of human rights and what it means to provide what is necessary for the well-being of all people and all life, I often think about the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, UN SDGs, and they cover things like those that I've mentioned already, including access to education, work, equality, climate action, climate stability, the health of the land, the health of the waters. So I have had a good bit of experience working in the realms of sustainability and equity, sustainability of nature and social equity, and excuse me, in whether it's nature conservation or access reparations for clean water, clean air, soil, food, and been associated with philanthropic efforts in that realm, and also working for a large regulatory agency that would use regulations and market incentives and partnerships and improvements in performance in various ways to achieve these goals. So what I came to find is there is a large portfolio of interventions that can be used to serve basic human rights. Often cost a whole lot of money. So, the way that many institutions, transnational institutions, work is many different countries or organizations will donate money to the organization, and then they deploy that money to the various causes to deal with the problem. Or there are loans given to nations where those nations use the capital to address poverty, or clean air, indoor air, or clean energy for their population. So I find myself, and I always, anyways, we have 800 million people today that still do not have access to clean water. Usually it's women and women and girls who are spending the hours a day going to collect clean water. That means, for instance, they're not in school. Not to mention just every other dimension of that's really screwed up. So, almost used bad language there, but my girls watch these videos. At least they should be. So anyway, I find myself surprised to being ever more convinced that there is a more systemic action that could be taken that may ameliorate all the harms caused by all the things that I just mentioned and help humans to get out of this terrible situation that they have created for their own species. Not to mention all the other life forms that have to endure us in various ways. The issue is inflation. The lost efficiency, lost economic efficiency, the lost capital to persistent chronic inflation. Now, you could talk about hyperinflation in a variety of countries that are experiencing it today, and this must be addressed immediately, if not sooner, in Venezuela, Argentina, Lebanon, and some others. But just general inflation that everyone is exposed to. The lost efficiency, right, results in this thought of like, what if there were not inflation? If capital was not lost to inflation? If that capital was available to the people who are working extremely hard, but the money they're earning is worth much less the next day, the next week, the next month, the next year. How would they deploy that capital? Education, clean water, clean cooking, clean indoor cooking, resulting in better health outcomes, lower healthcare costs, increased ambition, hope, excitement about the future, perception of opportunity, the existence of optionality in their lives that they did not have before because they're not working insanely hard just to make sure that the whatever money they earned, they can either spend it immediately on things they don't even want or turn it into some other form of currency that is more stable. Access to a stable currency should be a human right. This may be a systemic intervention that we can add to our portfolio of interventions we are using to address all of these interdependent and complex challenges facing our species and the well-being of all life on Earth. This is too important an issue to allow our traditions and assumptions to go unexamined. We must question these things and take action and begin trying to find a resolution. My name is Matt Keene. Thank you for visiting Creating a Future We Want, the Ethic series. What is your vision for access to a stable currency for all humans?